Hi everyone, welcome. This is Caitlin from GrassFedGirl.com, and today we're here with Yecca Erin. She is from at Eat Meat Queen, so at Eat Meat Queen on Instagram, and she's a chef and she's a nose to tail eater, and she has a great story to share with us. So we're so excited to have Yecca. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how did you get started on, well, tell us your whole journey, like, what made you want to get started on carnivore and how was your health before and more about your cooking and everything you're into.
Yeah, so I have been basically on every diet growing up. I started dieting when I was 14 years old. I remember finding out that I was overweight in the fifth grade, and I didn't care at the time until I was, in high school at about 14, and I started doing all sorts of different diets. The nothing ever really worked for me, and I pretty much stayed overweight every time with every diet. And I had, gotten some health problems. I had scoliosis, and then I started getting hip pain, really bad, to where the point I would like crouch down to pick something up or bend over, and I would be stuck like that for a few minutes. And this was happening in like my early 20s. I was really young when this started happening. And I used to get a bunch of cysts also just in random spots of my body. And, of course, the same as most people, I had low energy. I was tired in the middle of the day. I slept a lot. And then I just overall wasn't feeling good. And then I started getting more into like healthier eating, more whole foods eating. And that did help with a lot of things. Like I lost some weight. And I started, eating coconut oil and MCT oil. So that kind of did help with my mental clarity. But then I first started with gluten-free whole foods eating, and that helped a lot. And then I, found out certain ingredients I was sensitive to, like soy. So I cut out soy, and I just like slowly started cutting certain foods out. And then I would say the last diet that I did before carnivore was paleo. And I was still doing some dairy and butter and things like that, though. But when I went paleo, I had actually gained back a lot of weight that I had lost. I never had a scale, so I really don't know exactly how much, but from like the different sizes that I've been, because I've gone up and down, I would say I probably gained about 30 pounds back, just from, because, as a chef, you love to cook all the time. And with paleo, you can really make anything that you want, so I loved making, I had a sweet tooth, and I loved making, flourless chocolate cakes and things like that. And so the weight started coming back on, and, people were asking me if I was pregnant. And, it was just like really, it got really bad. And then I also started getting depressed. I did lose my mom about 5 years ago. So, that might have had something to do with it, but I don't think that was the main reason of why I was depressed. I really think it was, it was a combination of diet and life. But I started getting really depressed, and I hated my relationship that I was in, and I hated my job. And my friends had told me about carnivore about a year before I started it. And oh, and another issue that I was dealing with was Candida. I had been trying so many different natural remedies to get rid of my Candida. I tried pills, nasty powders, creams, and I had been doing that for years. And I couldn't find anything that would help it like go away completely. Some things worked, but it was always just temporary. And so that was the main reason I started looking into carnivore about a year after my friends told me. I was like, it just like popped in my head, and I was like, let me look into it, and I found somebody with a similar story almost 3 years ago. It was really hard to find stuff online back then, but I did find a couple stories. And, she said, well, you've tried all these other diets for 30 days, why not try this for 30 days? And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just do it. And so I've actually never even done keto. I just kind of jumped straight into carnivore. And I was doing it for Candida, but I also, was reading that it was good for losing weight. And another thing that really drew it to me was what I was reading is that they really tell you not to exercise in the beginning if you don't exercise already. And that was like music to my ears, because my whole life I've always hated working out. I've tried, the whole like change your mentality thing, and I tried to just like force myself to go, but I would always like end up leaving feeling worse whenever I tried to do that. And I never felt healthy enough to go to the gym. And so the fact that they were telling you, to not go to the gym and then eat as much as you want, as a fat girl, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I love this. I wish I could have found it sooner. So I started Carnivore, and since before Carnivore, I've always been a supporter of locally sourced meats, and I worked at farmers markets for a few years. So I got hooked up with my main foods that I started out with were pork chops and longhorn beef, which is really lean. And so I was just basically eating pork chops and lean hamburger meat. And I felt best when I was eating about like 2.5 pounds of meat a day. I was really thankful for the online community, because my friend that had introduced me to it, she wasn't living near me anymore. So I didn't really have anybody. And the relationship I was in, he was not supportive of it at all. He was actually pretty against it. And so, it was really hard to start it. But I was thankful for the online community, because, just reading other people's success stories and hearing how many other people have had success this way, eating this way and doing it for so long, was really encouraging. The before and after pictures are just, I love seeing those, like, still to this day. It's just amazing. And I have switched to eating more beef, because I noticed I was sensitive to pork, so I try to limit my pork intake. And then I would say about a few months into Carnivore, maybe even sooner, my depression started lifting. And I like, it was like my third eye was just opening, and I started realizing, like, I have to stay in this job I don't like. I don't have to stay in this relationship that I've been working really hard to, fix. Like, I finally realized it was a one-sided relationship, and, that I can find another job somewhere else. And so it kind of, helped me see all those things that I wasn't able to see before. And also my Candida had started clearing up. It like completely went away, and I wasn't having any side effects anymore. And it hasn't come back since then. I would say that did heal at about 3 months, after 3 months of being carnivore. And I did have a transition period where I was really tired. It was about 2 or 3 weeks that I was just not feeling good. But, I read about the transition period. I knew that it was going to happen. And since I've done lots of cleanses and things like that. So I was really familiar with feeling really bad before feeling good. So, I stuck with it, like everyone said to. And then it was just like one day I just woke up and I just felt great. I felt happy. I felt like, even though things weren't going perfect in my life, I felt like everything was, right in the world, and I loved everybody, and all these awesome things. Oh, and also before Carnivore, I'm sure it's because of the depression, but I was sleeping about 9 to 12 hours a day. And I was sleeping about 6 hours, and I had so much energy throughout the day on Carnivore. And now it's about 6 to 8, it varies. But yeah, and I was having so much energy, and, I worked up the courage to get out of, it was a really long relationship. We were together for almost 4 years. But it wasn't going anywhere. And so I worked up the courage to get out of that relationship. That was, really, I think that was a really big part, that and the diet was a big part of my depression. Because, he wasn't very supportive of a lot of things that I did. And so leaving that, I left my job about the same time I left him. And I ended up having to live in my van, because I didn't really think it through all the way. And so even though I was living in my van, I was still happier than I'd ever been in my life.
Well, that's pretty normal for Austin, right?
Yeah. Yeah, living in a van, yeah, it's definitely normal. I see him all the time driving around over here. But yeah, and ever since ever since then, like it just seems like every day, just gets better and better. And of course, life happens where, you will have some bad days, but still overall, every day, just life just keeps getting better and better. And I keep feeling better than ever. And the weight started melting off to where, then people started asking me like, oh, you're losing weight. Like, what are you doing? Why are you losing weight? It was like every week at the farmer's market, somebody else would ask me like, what are you doing? And it just started melting off. And I didn't do any exercise. Like I worked the farmer's market once a week. So, I would lift heavy crates and stuff that day, but I was mostly standing. So I really wasn't doing any physical labor, but my muscles started growing. Like I noticed the muscles in my arms were getting bigger. I was like, what is this? Like, I'm not even doing anything, to grow muscles. And so that was really amazing for me to see. And then also, I've always had short, brittle nails that would always tear and break. And I started noticing they were growing really fast, twice a week, and it was kind of annoying. But now that, I've been doing it for a while, I can tell my nails are so much stronger now. They never break, or, unless I hit it into something, they might break. But it's very rare that they break, and I can actually have long nails for the first time in my life. And my hair before Carnivore also, I would pull out chunks of hair in the shower, just my hair was just falling out. And it was happening still in the beginning, and it kind of got worse in the beginning, but I think it was just my body just getting the last of it out. But then ever since then, I don't shed anywhere near as much, it's just a couple hairs in the shower. And so that was another thing that was really awesome. And my skin also, I've always had pretty clear skin, but it got even more clear also. And a couple other weird things that cleared up for me that I didn't expect to was my eye. So my eyes, this eye is a little bit more brown, and it's always been like that. There's just a little piece of brown in there. But I noticed when I started getting more depressed that it was turning more brown. And I didn't know what it was. I tried to look into it, but it just, everything that I found didn't really correlate with my lifestyle. So I had no idea what it was. And I would say about 6 months or so into carnivore diet, the brown started going away and the green started coming back. Yeah, I don't know if it was maybe toxins building up in my body, just turning my eye brown, but it cleared it up, whatever it was. I've always been my own doctor. So I've never really gone to a doctor. I just don't believe in going to doctors to getting little things like that checked out. I think it's okay for, serious things like surgery or, something serious like that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just never felt a need to go get certain things checked out. I've just been a really big believer in healing yourself, especially with diet, because I've just seen, so many things improve just by the foods that I.
Did you notice?
And
another
weird thing. Oh, go ahead.
Do you notice you don't get sick as often, things like that?
Yeah, definitely. My immune system, I'm probably the healthiest person I know, physically around, that lives here around me. I can be around sick people and not get sick. And I'm not even worried about it. My boyfriend, he gets sick. He has switched to meat-based since, we started dating, but, he's still working on healing his immune system. So he does get sick every now and then. And he tries to tell me oh, no, don't get near me, you'll get sick. And I'm like, no, I really can't get sick. And I even try to get, not I really try, but, and I just don't get sick. My immune system is just really strong. And, I went through that transition period. The only time I don't feel good is if I eat a lot of food off track, if I eat too much keto goodies, or one time I tried to eat a gluten-free piece of a half a piece of a gluten-free chocolate pie, and it destroyed, it really messed me up. And so, I really try not to do those things, because I know I'm really sensitive to it. And that's pretty much the only time that I don't feel good, is if I don't eat carnivore. And the gluten really messes me up too. And I did try to eat, I ate a piece of biscuit sometime in the past 6 months, just to see what the reaction was going to be. And it wasn't as bad as it used to be, but it was still pretty bad. I had, like a stuffy nose for about 2 weeks and a bloat for about 2 weeks. Like it was just a slight bloat, but I could feel it. And it took about 2 weeks for like the symptoms to go away just from eating like a piece of biscuit. It was even made with local flour, like local organic flour.
Okay.
So like it wasn't just like, like a Pillsbury biscuit or whatever.
So this is a new boyfriend. The old one's gone,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I left the old one, and I wasn't really looking to jump in, I wasn't trying to get into another relationship. But he just kind of like we met each other through some other friends, and so we were kind of like, he started like just coming around more, and we had both kind of gotten out of a similar relationship, and we just started talking and hanging out, and everything was just like working so perfectly, like in life and then with our relationship. And he was basically everything I wanted in my previous relationship. Like I had been asking for all these things in my previous relationship and I never got it, but he had like all these qualities and traits that I was looking for, and he was extremely supportive of my diet, which I couldn't be more grateful for, because it's a really big part of my life. And ever since going carnivore, it's basically saved my life, because I was depressed and I was getting to the point where I didn't know what to do with my life. Like I didn't care about my life. I was almost like wanting to end my life because I just hated everything about it and I wasn't feeling good, and I had all these health issues.
And you were living in a van down by the river.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I dream of doing that, but yeah, I think so many people don't realize the connection between what they're eating and their mood and it's so, I mean, I always try to talk people into at least doing paleo or keto. I mean, if they can't handle carnivore, because the sugar and the grains and just all the the standard American diet is like a recipe for depression.
For sadness.
Yeah. So, now you working in a restaurant now?
So right now I do meal prepping for families in my neighborhood. I order their groceries on Instacart, get them delivered to my home, and then I meal prep for them and I deliver it to their homes. And then I also work for a local catering company that uses locally sourced ingredients. And so I just pick up shifts from them every now and then.
Awesome. Well, that must be fulfilling to like know you're helping people to eat healthier and stuff. And then you're also a carnivore coach.
Yeah, I became the first female carnivore coach with Meet Our Ex, and I absolutely love doing that. I always give out free help on Instagram. Like I love helping people. Since starting my Instagram, like I didn't realize like how much I wanted to help other people, and inspire other people to eat this way, or at least eat meat or eat more meat. And so I love the coaching, I really do. And it just like makes me excited to see other people that are wanting to, take control of their health, put their own health in their own hands. And yeah, and I love doing that. I love working, for Meet Our Ex and then doing all that.
And that's great. I mean, the more people that know about this, the better. And I think, we're going to get more people off their prescriptions and feeling better, and, it's losing weight and, avoiding heart attacks. And I mean, it just goes on and on. It affects every part of your life. I mean, I've had family members start and feel really good really quick. So it's amazing thing. So where do you see yourself going with all this, Yecca, in the next few years?
So I am working on getting my printed cookbook out. It's going to be, I'm trying to shoot for over 100 recipes, and they're all going to be carnivore. And it is more for the carnivores that aren't as sensitive, because a lot of my recipes will have a ton of spices, for specific dishes, or will have dairy. So, it is for people that aren't as sensitive to certain things, but I'm trying to create it for people mostly just starting out carnivore. It has like a lot of dishes. Like I like to recreate dishes, you know, that so the like my I like to make noodles, egg noodles and chicken buns, you know, so things that people are going to be like, that way people don't have an excuse to say, oh, I'm going to miss pasta, or oh, I'm going to miss bread, you know. That way they can still have a carnivore option, you know, and they can go to that and they don't have to worry, you know, they don't have to freak out about the foods that they're going to miss. And there's, you know, they're able to replace it with nutrient dense carnivore meals. And so that's my main thing that I'm working on right now. And I also, you know, when I started my Instagram, I a lot of people were asking me to make shirts, or they would like just shout out shirt ideas. And I didn't see, like, I saw other carnivore apparel, but I didn't see like the stuff that I was thinking of making and things like that. So, you know, I made a Teespring account, and I started making like these shirts with eat meats, and like one with steaks all over it. And, you know, I created it to help other people, you know, wear this out in public. That way other people can be like, what does that mean? You know, like that way you can get the word out about meat, you know, and how actually beneficial and healthy it is. You know, just kind of to help spread the word about meat. And I love wearing these shirts, especially like to the gym or the grocery store. Whole Foods is like my favorite place to wear it because, you know, it's like mostly a lot of vegetarians over there and stuff.
And depressed vegetarians.
Yeah. And then also this year, I plan to put together a really huge meetup for KetoCon. I put together one last year at Fogo de Chao, and it was amazing. It was over 50 people there. And so I'm trying to get like probably 100 people to this dinner. But I'm trying to put together a dinner possibly at a venue. And I'm going to ask my catering company that I work for to cook the meat for us. And that way we can just have, you know, it can be more in a private setting, and, you know, we can all have a bunch of meats.
You could make your good meat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that sounds awesome. I saw the pictures, and hopefully I can come this year. I don't know, but what I was going to ask you, I mean, you know, there's a big debate in carnivore over the grain-fed and the grass-fed. And I mean, since I have started carnivore, you know, my appetite for fat has gone way up. And, you know, I think the biggest problem with some of the grass-fed is that people don't know how to cook it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes it's like shoe leather. So what tips do you have for us about cooking grass-fed beef?
So I haven't cooked with grain-fed beef in a long time. So for me, I do like my steaks more on the rare end. And so, you know, I think that's a really big help. And not overcooking your meat. And then also I think bringing it to room temp is a really good tip. Whenever it's really cold and then you shock it with a super hot heat on the pan, it's going to shock the meat, and it's going to like seize up and make it more tough to chew. Mm-hmm.
See, that's a big
Yeah.
thing.
I know, like some of the grass-fed meat in the stores, like they wash it with a solution. So I know like some people will say it has like a weird smell, like a fishy smell or something. And I think it might be possibly from the solution or the fact that it's old because they had to ship it from another country. And so I really try to source locally, or I will get it from Whole Foods. Theirs seems to be okay. I think I'm lucky because I'm in Austin where Whole Foods started, so they do get some of their meats at the counter locally here in Texas. So I think that might be why I don't have an issue, because I've heard some other people do have issues with the Whole Foods meat and it smells bad. So I just try to get it locally. I found the rancher I found him on eatwild.com. But you know, anybody can look on there to see what ranches are nearby.
The other thing I feel like is with ground beef, a lot of the grass-fed farmers, I feel like they don't put in that. So it's like 90-10. And why do they do that? Like, why don't it's like they think because we're health conscious that we don't want any fat in our meat. And it's just like super irritating. Have you found any higher fat there?
I actually prefer not as fatty meat. And especially with my burgers, actually, sometimes I'll look for the 90-10, or like the 85-15 is what I prefer the most. And I've noticed even with like a local butcher shop and the meat in the stores, I feel like they're all different. Even if they're all 85-15, I feel like there really isn't any that is exactly 85-15, because it depends on the cuts of meat that they're putting in there. And like the only way that they can measure the fat is the excess fat that they're adding. They can't measure the fat that's already on the meat that they're putting in there. So I think it varies from everywhere. I think you just have to like find a good, you have to find your person, or your brand, and then just kind of like stick with that, because I think it varies with anything like grain fed or grass fed. But if you do find a local rancher and you like order half a cow or something, I'm pretty sure if you tell them to, add more fat to the ground beef mix, they could definitely do that for you. They're usually, really accommodating, especially if they know beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, I know online US Wellness Meats has a 73 something, so it's very fatty and it's very good. I'll put the link down for that, and I know that's a good company. But that's the only place I found that's consistently has a fatty one that I like. So check that in the profile, in the profile. That's Instagram. Down in the description box. So, well, Yecca, what else do you want to share with us before you go? And don't you have an ebook now?
Yes, I put out just a little mini cookbook for the holidays. So it's kind of just, like nice dishes you can have. It doesn't have to be around the holidays, but there's things like that. Things in there like my cornbread stuffing, which is like one of my favorite recipes that I put together because it has actual bread in there. And to me, it tastes like the cornbread stuffing that I grew up with all the seasonings that I put in there. And then there's also a cheesecake recipe, a really good goat cheese and prosciutto quiche, just some really nice recipes. And it's a little over 20 recipes, but it's an ebook and it's only $6. And the link to buy it is in my Instagram bio.
Awesome. So if you make something like a cheesecake, do you put sweetener, or do you just say it's optional, or?
Yeah, it's optional. It's not, like for me personally, I will put stevia in there sometimes, but all my recipes that have optional stevia in there, I make them without the stevia just to make sure it tastes good, without a sweetener. And so I like to use things like vanilla and cinnamon, to sweeten dessert dishes without using like an actual stevia. And so, when you don't eat sweeteners, you'd be surprised how sweet vanilla and cinnamon can be.
Yeah, I mean, I know even scallops to me taste like really sweet.
Yeah, they are really sweet. Yeah.
I definitely have put cinnamon and vanilla in my coffee, and that helps a lot with especially people who are getting over the the sweet tastes and stuff like that. So, I mean, a lot of people really struggle with Candida. Why do you think that it went away for you?
I think mostly just because I cut the sugars out, really, because that's basically what Candida feeds off of, and you know, I think that was the main thing, just cutting out all sugars. Even though in the beginning I was consuming a lot of dairy when I first started carnivore, my go-to thing when I had cravings was heavy cream, and I chugged heavy cream and it made my cravings go away. It was just like something really easy for me to do, and I didn't really see any side effects with drinking dairy at the time. And so, yeah, I think just making sure that I ate enough meat, because I think that's another really big important thing that a lot of people first starting out don't understand, because they're just not used to eating that much meat in one sitting, even though throughout the day they might actually eat more than 2 pounds a day. So I think, making sure that you eat enough in the beginning, at least 2 pounds, unless you're like 5 foot or shorter. I think 2 pounds is a really good place to start for most people. And, supplementing with salt also. I've had a lot of clients that I've coached and they're like, oh, but I salt my food really heavily. And I'm like, yeah, so did I. But, that's still, it wasn't enough. I started seeing really good improvements once I started supplementing with salt and electrolytes on carnivore.
I think it's also kind of like the fat. People are so afraid of salt that it's like they think it's a lot, but it's really not. And they're always afraid, like, am I going to get too much salt? Well, you're going to just poop if you get too much salt. Like, you're not going to die or anything. So
Right.
it's not like I don't know. It's like they overthink it, I think. Well, what do you feel about fasting?
I think fasting is good. I wasn't able to fast probably for about the first 2 years of carnivore because I think my body was just healing. And I tried to do it and I couldn't. I felt I would get really fatigued and really moody. And so I just said, nope, I'm not doing this. Like, it does not make me feel good. And so I didn't even try doing it until it was over 2 years later. And then I started incorporating like 24-hour fast, or, it would start like from 16 hours. And then I started getting higher and higher. And then I started doing 24-hour fasts. And then I did the 3-day fast with the Redmond salt. They did that first one. And that was my first extended fast. And, I did lose some weight that I was wanting to lose. But then I noticed that I started getting carried away with the 24-hour fasts and things like that. And I noticed that I was like not feeling good. I think because I was like forcing them because I still have like some stomach fat that I'm trying to lose. And so I just kind of like got carried away with it. And so now I don't force I just do it naturally. Some days I really try to focus on not forcing my fast because I feel like then I just get carried away because of, since I've been overweight my whole life, like it's still an issue for me, even though I've lost a ton of weight, it still gets to me in my head, but it is way better than it used to be. I have more confidence than I've ever had. I had lost a lot of that confidence in my last relationship, and then switching to carnivore, switching to carnivore and my current boyfriend, like both really had a big part in just, bringing my confidence up. And now I'm like comfortable in front of a screen. I wasn't always comfortable, like putting my face in front of a screen, and now like I'm okay with it every day. And I really try not to force my fasts. So.
And that's a great lesson and also you said you didn't even start for 2 years, so that's really good. I mean, I think people start from the first day and it's like, well, you're going to fail and fall on your face and find yourself in the chocolate aisle at the grocery store. So
yeah.
I think that was the thing that sold me was eat all you want, eat as much as you can. I mean, because I was like, well, you're taking away every single other thing I have. So as long as I can eat as much as I want, then and I think you can tweak that kind of thing after a while, but you don't need to start it from the first month or year even. So how long in total have you been carnivore?
I've been carnivore 2 years and I believe 8 months. I started on April 17th, 2017.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, anything you want to say to a new person who's just starting, and then we'll finish.
Yeah. Anybody starting out, just don't be scared to eat as much as you want, because there's a lot of issues that can come up if you don't eat enough. And, supplementing with salt is really important in the beginning, especially. And like, those are the only 2 things you really need to focus on. Like, don't worry about exercising. Don't worry about fasting. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing because they're not on the same journey that you are. Everybody's different. And I think, eating until you're full and supplementing with salt are the first 2 major steps you can take for taking control of your health on the carnivore diet.
Well, awesome. Well, everybody go follow Yecca at Eat Meat Queen, and I'll put the link down below in the box. And if this video has been helpful, please share with a friend, subscribe, leave us a thumbs up. It really helps my channel, and we'll bring you more interviews like this one. So thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.